I met a really difficult customer once, and by the time that I was done with her and her family, it was around 11 p.m. My son was just a few months old, and I remember looking out of the window, and tears just rolled down my cheeks. I was wondering what have I put myself through, and why am I still in this industry? I wanted to just leave. Hi, my name is Kelly, and I have spent more than 15 years in the bridal industry in Singapore. Now, over the years, I've owned around 8 bridal companies in total. Some of them I started, some of them I purchased. I've even sold some bridal companies and closed some. But what I've realized after 15 years is that bridal industry is pretty much one of the hardest industry ever. And there are a few points in those years that I wish to walk away. I started my business when I was around 21 years old, and especially for bridal business, it was wonderful. I get to work with beautiful wedding dresses, happy customer, and most importantly, there's a lot of money in the bridal business. Now back then when I was around 21 years old, most of my friends, they were still working in a restaurant getting around $8 to $10 per hour, but I was already getting a few $100s for a wedding dress. But after diving deeper, I realized that bridal industry is a lot more complex than what I have imagined. Because I started so young, I couldn't afford to hire anybody. I did everything myself, so that includes sourcing for dresses, designing of dresses, looking after my customers, and doing all the marketing work. Very soon, I realized that I was bombarded with all the operational stress. I was losing all my weekends, and most of the time, by the time that I go back home, it was around 10 p.m. And not to mention, because I was in a wedding industry, everything comes with an emotional price tag to it. Soon, I realized that I was dealing with some of the most emotionally intense period of a person's life. And my customers, they have super high expectations. I was receiving text messages all time of the day asking me questions that sometimes not even related to wedding dresses. And I realized that I was spending my time trying to make everybody happy. But I am neglecting my own family, and I forgot about myself. 8 years ago, I gave birth to the most beautiful thing ever, my son. And all I want to do was to spend time with him. But because of the nature of my business, I couldn't even enjoy my full maternity leave, and I went back to work pretty early. And I remember that there was one night when I was dealing with quite a difficult customer. I ended work at around 11 p.m. And I remember that at that point in time, I just looked out of the window. I looked at the dark sky, and I started crying. I couldn't control. I was just feeling really upset about everything. And I didn't know why am I even doing this. I was losing my family, I was losing my me time, and right now, even my customers not happy with me. But then I remember my wonderful customers that picked me instead of my competitors. I remember my group of staffs who are working so hard, not just for me, but to improve their lives. And for me to just throw everything and walk away, that would be really irresponsible of me. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to let anybody down. And I started to relook at my company and to rethink about the structure, my SOPs, where I went wrong. And I started to spend more time in staff training. I started to get to know friends in other wedding boutiques, and I tried to organize cross-boutique trainings so that we can learn the strength from everybody. I started to realize that for a company to be really secure and successful, it would mean that the company needs to survive well without any particular person. And this particular person includes me as well. If I couldn't appear at work the next day, my company should be able to run well. Similarly, if my staff takes leave, the company will be able to go on very well without her as well. Right now, I run my business completely remotely. And it's been 2 years since I've left Singapore. What I have learned in the journey is to learn how to manage the boundaries and to really listen to my inner voice about what I want. And I try to manage and run the business like how I would like the company's environment to be if my own children were working in the company. And through this process, I've come to realize that the people that I work with, they've got so many undiscovered strengths, And I realized that by stepping away from the business and letting the staff shine, it helps them to rediscover themselves too. Do I hate Bridal now? No, I don't. I just don't know how to structure myself back then. I didn't know where I should set my boundaries. I didn't quite know how to run a company properly. And after 15 years, I've come to realize that success for me was never about building more companies or building things bigger. It's not even about earning all the money that I can. But success to me is about building a business that at the end doesn't consume me.